Hi, I'm Dennis from Plain Truth Ministry. Welcome to Friday in the Word. Today's message comes from Acts chapter 2, verses 2 through 6. This week I was writing from the book of Timothy, chapter 6, verses 3 through 5, where Paul, as he does in many places in his letters to Timothy and in other letters, warns Timothy of the impact of false teachers. I was led from there to this passage in the book of Acts. The passage relates to the Holy Spirit coming into the bodies of the apostles on the day of Pentecost after Jesus' ascension. The passage, Luke writes in Acts 2 through 6, "And suddenly there came a sound from heaven, as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. And they were filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak in other tongues, as the Spirit gave them utterance. And there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men, from every nation under heaven. And when this sound occurred, the multitude came together and were confused, because everyone heard them speak in his own language." This is, to me, one of the most important miracles in the Bible. And I think it's somewhat important to me because it still applies today. It applies to us as we try to share the gospel with others. Once we're told this, Peter delivers a powerful, mighty speech to those who hear it, and each one in his own language understands. That's the key here. Through the Holy Spirit indwelling in Peter, giving him the words to speak, that speech was allowed to be heard and understood by everyone who heard it in their own language. Peter didn't deliver the speech in his native language of Hebrew, have somebody write it down, and then have another person take it and translate it to those who were going to hear its own language and deliver it to them. Peter delivered the speech in his native language, Hebrew, and the Holy Spirit in him translated the speech, and it was received by those who heard it in the language they understood. I want you to understand how important that is. This speech and the words of Peter didn't have to go through several layers to get into the ears that were meant to hear it. This is all done by the Holy Spirit. What this means, among other things, is that because the Holy Spirit gave Peter the words to speak, the words were pure. God, through the Holy Spirit, was delivering the words through Peter as a conduit to the people he intended to hear it. God delivered the words through the Holy Spirit, using Peter as a conduit to bring it to the ears of those who were intended to hear it. So the words were pure. The words were accurate. The words were exactly what God wanted to be heard. And in this miracle, they were heard in the way that those who heard it could understand. No misinterpretation, no mistranslation. They heard what was meant to be heard directly. And that's our job. If we hear, understand, and know the gospel, the one true gospel. When we share it, we try to share it in a way that others can understand, not to confuse or baffle or mislead, but in the same pure form that the Holy Spirit allowed Peter to speak, the Holy Spirit will allow us to speak. God bless and have a great day.